There was another story in this Wednesday Mariners-Astros game, wasn't there?
There was. Hector Neris allegedly said something to Julio Rodriguez that was not cool and really, really, really strange behavior by Hector Neris. If you missed the story, somehow it was out there everywhere. On Wednesday, Neris struck out Julio Rodriguez in a big spot, walked right at him after he struck him out. Julio's walking towards the dugout. Hector Neris walked right at him, screaming at him, and allegedly dropped a homophobic slur in Spanish that Julio heard and Eugenio Suarez, who was on deck, heard, and both got irate. One of the strangest exchanges and actions by a player I think I have ever seen.
First, just the way he walked at Julio, just to start with that. The Astros dugout's on the third base side at T-Mobile Park. Mariners dugout's on the first base side. When Hector Neris struck out Julio, he starts walking toward the Mariners dugout and toward Julio, screaming at him. You'll see pitchers scream at hitters as they walk back to their own dugout sometimes. That happens. I have never seen that. I've never seen a guy just walk right up to a hitter after a strikeout and scream in his face. So that was a little odd, and a little is putting it lightly. And then obviously the bench is cleared as a result. And you think to yourself, well, Julio's not rattled that easily. And actually, he's not really rattled at all. He is one of the more even-keeled guys you could possibly find. But something sparked him, and then we kind of found out why.
It went from, the bench is clearing. We hear everything happen after the game. Adam Jude's the one who gets the report. He was talking to Suarez, I would assume, right? That's where he got the story about what was said. And now there's now an MLB investigation as of today undergoing on what Neris said and what will be constituted by it. But it's really telling that what happened today was we found out like Neris and Julio were friends. They're both from the Dominican, and they like knew each other, talked a lot, etc., etc. Julio came out today and said he's never talking to Hector Neris ever again. Ever again. How many people in your life, Lyle, what would someone have to say to you that's your friend for you to never talk to them ever again in your life?
It would have to be something pretty egregious. Like 10 out of 10 egregious.
Yeah. But apparently what Hector Neris said was that bad. And, credit to Gino. I mean, he's the one who goes on the record and says this right away, holding Neris accountable. Which, I mean, could you imagine if someone said something like that in English and the TV cameras caught it? Like, it would be an enormous outcry. But it's in Spanish, and America's a primarily English-speaking country with especially baseball audience, which is majority English-speaking, wouldn't catch that. But I'm just thinking, like, who in their right, like, what would have to go through your mind to say that after you struck someone out? And Julio is not looking at Neris. He puts his head down in frustration and walks towards the dugout. And Neris comes at him and says that.
It's ridiculous. I mean, it's seriously ridiculous. Again, you're right. What does have to go through your head to say something like that? And by the way, why in the world would these two guys make this up? Not only would it not make any sense in the world to put out there a story like this publicly, because if you put out a story like this publicly and then it turned out to be not true, you look ridiculous. So why in the world would these two guys lie about that? And oh, by the way, two guys who are, for all we've seen, two of the best people, not just on the Mariners, but in the game of baseball. Two guys that are incredibly friendly, welcoming to everybody, inclusive, everything. Why in the world would they lie about something like that? They wouldn't. So it lets me to believe it's probably true. And when Julio talked to the media here on Thursday, because he got out of the clubhouse pretty quick, at least it was reported on Wednesday night, and didn't talk to the media after, he had a session Thursday where he said what you just mentioned a minute ago, that he's never talking to Hector Neris ever again. And he also got asked, was it true that he used some homophobic slur? And Julio just said, I'm not commenting on that. Now, again, if it wasn't true, and Julio was going to say, look, emotions flared, two teams fighting for a postseason spot. He just started yelling and let stuff get the best of him. I feel like Julio would put that out there and say, look, just let's let bygones be bygones, heat of the moment. Hector Neris has been a friend of mine. We'll get past it. He didn't say that. He didn't say that. So again, what reason do these guys have to put a story out there like this if it wasn't true? For everything I've taken away, yeah, it's true.
And all the reporting from the Seattle Times points to that's what was said. Multiple people, I think they went on anonymously, confirmed that that is what was said by Hector Neris. This has to be the grudge he held from last year, right? It has to be.
Which makes no sense because, now for those who don't know what you're mentioning, Julio last year in Houston in June hit a home run off Hector Neris. After Neris, by the way, had been throwing at multiple guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Gino included. He was throwing at guys. And what does Julio do? He hits a home run, helps the Mariners seal a win in Houston. And I watched that video again over the last couple days. Julio, not one time in that video, looks at Neris. He's not screaming at Neris. He's not trash talking Neris. He's fired up rounding the bases. He gets to home plate, goes back to the dugout. Him and his teammates are fired up. There's nothing in that video that shows him screaming at Hector Neris. I guess Neris held a grudge for nearly a year and a half.
We've seen grudges held longer. Hunter Strickland.
Yeah, former Mariner Hunter Strickland, barely. But yeah.
Yeah, well, Hunter Strickland never used a homophobic slur on somebody because he was holding a grudge. And this just adds to another line on the laundry list of dog shit things that the Houston Astros have done over the last 7 seasons. It keeps growing. And by the way, Lyle, nothing backed up our claims that the Astros are the organization is like it. Do I want to say shitty? Yeah, shitty. Yeah. They have acted shitty in a number of ways, and let's put it like this: on the field, they are as good of an organization as it gets. On the field, they win. They produce good players. Their development system's good. They've made good offseason moves in trades and free agency. Baseball wise, they've been great. What you're referencing, and I agree with you, is everything else shitty. You can go check out one of our latest tweets where many of the Astros faithful confirm how shitty off the field the Astros are, and that's fans included. I mean, but I can't believe, Lyle, that people voluntarily expose themselves like that of being a pile of shit. Voluntarily online to the public with your face on your profile. You just go out there and you're like, yeah, I'm a pile of shit. Voluntarily. I can't believe that.
So this is what we laid out in this tweet for Astros fans after it got reported that there was allegedly a homophobic slur used at Julio by Hector Neris. Again, we didn't tweet this out after, Hector Neris was fired up after a strikeout. As two people who love just celebrating your victories in baseball, we would say, look, we might not like the Astros if it had been a situation where it was nothing but celebrating getting a strikeout. We might not like them. We wouldn't be tweeting about it. Otherwise, look, you celebrate when you win. We get it. But after that was reported, we tweeted out, here's some things the Astros have done in the last 6 years. There was the Yuli Gurriel thing in the World Series where he made some racial remarks toward Yu Darvish. There was Brandon Taubman, who was their former assistant GM and part of their front office, who made some ridiculous comments regarding Roberto Ozuna, who they used to have on the team a few years ago, and he ended up losing his job over it. There's the cheating scandal, of course. There's the fact that, we haven't even talked about this. Remember when Dusty Baker said he's tired of his guys getting hit when Munoz hit Chas McCormick the other night? So Mariners Twitter and just people look this up. Since 2021, the Astros had hit 17 Mariners batters, or the Mariners had hit 17 Astros batters. Yeah, let's do that again. Astros had hit 17 Mariners batters since 2021.
Yeah, you got it backwards again.
I did it wrong again. Okay, rewind. Don't listen to me, people. Okay, 3, 2, 1, here we go. Now listen. The Mariners have hit 17 Astros since 2021. The Mariners pitchers have hit 17 Astros. The Astros pitchers have hit 33 Mariners in 3 years. 33. So we put that on the list, that they've hit 33 Mariners batters in 3 years. And then now we put this Hector Neris thing. We said, what a franchise that is. That is quite the laundry list of things you've done. And what are some of the responses we get, TJ? Because I'll tell you what, if there were accusations of somebody on the Mariners using words like this, I don't think we'd be sitting there saying, oh, it's fine, he didn't do anything, well, let's defend him. No, we'd be like, you can't say stuff like that. That's not okay.
We wouldn't be saying they need to toughen up. It happens all the time in baseball.
Oh,
that's the general consensus reply we got. Julio needs to toughen up.
That was one. There's the classic Astros fans reply of, oh, Mariners fans crying, being soft again. No, we're not talking about the loss. We're talking about something that was totally out of line that was said, allegedly. And there was a ton of replies of, this is the most ridiculous one, by the way. Well, I've been lip reading, and here's what he actually said. It was taken out of context. It's like, yeah, let's take the word of Astros Twitter, who's lip reading, and saying, oh, I speak a little bit of Spanish. Here's what he said. He didn't actually say this stuff. Yeah, over two people who were right next to it and heard it. Yeah, that's credible. Sure.
Oh, I wish you could spend less time online. Man, yeah. I mean, we really brought out the bottom of the barrel. Like, we tweeted that. I'm like, okay, it might do fine. And then I wake up this morning and I'm just eating breakfast and I'm scrolling. I'm like, oh my God. These people, again, voluntarily telling on themselves for how shitty of a person they are. Like, it's incredible.
Just going to the edge of the world to defend Hector Neris and like essentially knowing this is possibly what he said and saying, I stand with Hector Neris. Like, what are these people doing?
Tells you a lot about humanity and realize, wow, there are a lot of shitty people in this world. And I'm glad they just tell on themselves so we know not to deal with them.
And I guess a lot of them are in the city of Houston. Jeez.
Whew.
Man.
What a week, Lyle. What a week.
Yeah, we've had a lot to get off on our chest on this podcast. And I know it's supposed to be somewhat of a positive podcast that the Mariners are still in it, which is, I think, what we did at the start of this. But man, yeah, this Hector Neris stuff really rubbed me the wrong way. And no, it's not because the Mariners lost. Yes, we can be frustrated about the loss. That's not what has people up in arms. Like, again, it's what he allegedly said, which is totally out of line.
What is even a suspension for that? Is that a 5-game suspension, or is that like, we have no tolerance for this, like 15?
It's probably 5. So when Yuli did that thing in the World Series with Yu Darvish, he got suspended 5 games to start the next year. And honestly, if Neris does get suspended, it's probably not till next year. I doubt they're going to keep him out of postseason games. That's what Major League Baseball essentially said with Yuli Gurriel too, is we're not going to suspend him and keep him out of a World Series game. They suspended him 5 games the next year. That's ultimately what they decided on. We are not Major League Baseball, so we don't get to hand out the punishments. And if it's Neris and something gets proven that what he said was true, I would guess you'd see something like a 5 to 7 game suspension next year to start 2024.
In conclusion, I can't say I'm shocked that happened in that organization. I just can't. Too much of a trap of a rap list. Can't say it.